Well, hello to everybody. This is Charles Richard, and we are live streaming. And today we've got a real cool and a little bit different show for you guys. And we're gonna show you what it is that you need to do to actually live stream, because there are so many ways that you can actually live stream. And we're not gonna be focusing this particular stream to gamers, right? We're not focusing on gamers. We love gamers and everything, and we will do a gaming stream live for you guys that are into gaming, so that you can see what it is that we can do to better stream, or better get a better signal and a cleaner and a much more smoother transition, so that your streams can be seen much better, with much better quality and all that sort of stuff. Right now, what we're going to focus on is just the basics, the very basics of what live streaming is. And the most important thing I think that we need to sort of kind of try to cover is that of the ability to know what you have and what are the limitations of what you actually have. Most of the limitations, some of the limitations, not most of them, but some of the limitations are hardware limited, and some of the limitations are basically limited by the size of stream that you have. That means that the bandwidth of your carrier, whether some of us, some of you guys might stream, from your house, and if your bandwidth is not wide enough, it obviously, right, it's not going to be able to carry the 4K signal, or it might end up, with kind of a choppiness. In my particular situation, I have kind of a very unusual situation, because my situation is that I stream remotely. I do not stream from the same place at the same twice in a row. Like you can see right now, I'm in a coffee shop. I'm in a different coffee shop, and I am streaming. Sometimes what I have for bandwidth in the particular location is really bad, and for this particular location I do have an extremely horrible signal. It's such a signal that is probably better, if I could compare it, it's probably just good enough to get email, and that's it. Right? It's not a signal or a bandwidth that is strong enough to be able to even stream a simple YouTube video, because that's just the way it is. Okay, and some places are like that. Some places have very good signal. So the way that I have actually addressed that issue for me is that I actually use cellular hotspots. All right, so my cellular hotspot is actually what allots me the stream, because I have 5G. I use AT&T 5G, and the bandwidth is tremendous, and it's just really good. But here's the other issue. Not always, although you have a 5G stream, not every place that I go to is going to give me a smooth transition. And it doesn't matter how strong your signal is, because sometimes your signal is really strong, but if your tower is actually saturated with a lot of individuals, right? People that are actually using that cellular tower, then your tower is not going to give you a smooth stream, because you're going to have a lot of crashes, and it's going to have some slowdowns, and it's not going to be consistent. So it's going to have its up and downs. And sometimes when you've seen some of my streams, and this is what I am trying to work on, it is not an issue with my equipment. It is an issue with the quality of the stream, although my stream is 5G, my towers sometimes, if I go to a place that is overly populated, then I usually end up having to actually log on into a tower that might be there might be too many people in that particular tower, and therefore my stream, my signal, it fluctuates. And when it fluctuates, sometimes I get drop frames, and sometimes when I get those drop frames, you can see it clearly on some of the videos that I actually put on here. And the reason that I'm putting those videos is not so much for you guys to see what's here in the Orlando area. The reason that I'm putting those videos up is because I need to see the quality of the signal that I have. I know that my MacBook Air that I use and my equipment that I use have the capabilities of streaming, because I don't have anything that's slowing me down. The only thing that's slowing me down is the quality of the signal that I have. So with that said, I want to start this particular series of how to stream, how to live stream. I'm going to go with the very, very basics so that you understand what it is that you can do and what it is that you can't do with the signal that you have, so that by just by starting with that, you are able to see and know your limitations, so that you don't overdrive your system, or think that you might be able to stream a 4K where your actual signal doesn't have the capabilities nor the capacity, because it doesn't have the bandwidth for 4K. So we're going to cover all of that, and all that is going to be really nice and helpful. And I am streaming. You can see here I've got my my Fuji, and you can see all the actual settings that I have. This is why I left it like this, so you can guys see the settings. So this particular camera gives me the ability to do all of that. So let me take these settings out so you know what I'm looking at and what I'm streaming at. All right, so let me take the settings off. Okay, here's the settings are completely off. All right, so now you don't see the settings. Okay, and I'm using my Fujifilm X-T2 like I always have been using, and I'm using my XC 35mm. Now I do, and I will say this, I do have a 10 to 24 millimeter XF, Fujinon lens. It's just a little bit kind of big for portability. So I have ordered a small and a much wider lens, because I don't like, if you can see how my face is, I'm too close. I believe I am too close. I need to at least bring it down to maybe a 12mm or a 16mm, because I want to have a much wider view, so that you guys can have a much wider view of where I'm at and stuff that I'm doing. But I'm using that 35mm because it's light and it's easy to carry around, and my main thing is portability. I have a huge amount of lenses, but I do not have a 16mm 1.4. But I am actually not going to buy the 16mm 1.4. I have ordered the 12mm. It's a 12mm by 7 Artisan. It is a manual lens. It is not a full focus lens. And I have also ordered the 15 to 45, the XC 15 to 45, because those are light lenses. So I don't know what those lenses are going to bring to me, but I am looking for a wider view, because I want a wider view, so that you folks can see me, much better, and you can actually take a look at what's going on behind me and all those sort of things. So before I get started with this program, if you have any questions, please comment and let me know. And I don't know if my chats are all working or not. I am actually broadcasting through Livestream, and I am broadcasting live simultaneously on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. All right, so I've got a triple broadcast, a simulcast that we are looking at right now. So whether or not I am able to receive comments or not, I don't know. It would be nice if somebody would write some comments and I can test it, and maybe I can see if it works. I don't know if it works. I really do not know. So anyways, before we get started, please, subscribe. I always ask, for subscriptions. In Twitch, I have learned, because I'm very new with Twitch. In Twitch, we don't have subscribers, we have followers. So if you are in Twitch, please hit the follow me, and that way you can actually, I guess you are notified. I'm not sure yet how that particular Twitch works, if you are notified or not when I am online. So I'm still very new, so if you guys can help me out, I can actually get better at this Twitch thing. But as far as Facebook and YouTube, if you subscribe, you will get notified that we are live on the air. Alright, so anyways, my name is Charles Richard, and we are going to start this wonderful stream by this live stream by saying thank you for joining me. And this stream is all about live streaming. It's all about live streaming and what it is that you need to do to be able to live stream. Now, before I start that, I want to let you guys know where I'm at. Okay, I am in a place in Orlando called Winter Park. Winter Park is actually a sub-city, if you want to call it. It's part of Orlando, but Orlando has these I want to say like little areas that are called it's actually called a city. All right, so it's Winter Park City, but it's actually considered like Orlando. It's kind of confusing, so when you hear Winter Park is it's kind of like a Beverly Hills, if you want to say that. So it's very high end, and that's exactly where I'm at right now. I'm in Winter Park, and I want to show you what you're going to see right now. Is you're going to see some of the pictures that I actually took with my Fujifilm camera using the Acros. I actually used the Acros. That is a black and white simulation on the Fujifilm of what is here in Winter Park. So let's take a look at this and tell me, guys, what you think of it. What you're looking at right now is all of Winter Park. Just little areas in Winter Park. All of these photos were actually taken. These are all photos, all right? And again, these were all in the Acros, the Fujifilm. I did it with the X-T2. All right, all of them have been kind of tweaked up a little bit, all right, with Lightroom. So that is what you just saw there. So it's kind of fun. It was kind of fun because I did that yesterday, and I just thought, let me just kind of do like a quick montage of all these photos so you guys can see, also for the power of the Fujifilm system, because I am really into Fuji for a couple of reasons. One is because it's good, and it doesn't matter how you put it, it works. It's not like Canon, and it's not like Sony, all right. And I don't mean to bash on them, but it's like the Canon, the R5. You pay $3,800, and some of the thoughts behind that camera, just aren't there. Some people, just fall in love with Canon and are in love with Canon, and they kind of fail to see the reality of what they're actually doing, because for commercial use, the camera right now is not really good for commercial use. For one, it's a good camera. It's not a bad camera. If you can get by the overheating issue by adding an Atmos Ninja 5 or any external recorder, then yeah, you're gonna be okay with that. But it's not good. It's really not a good camera, not by no means at all, because everything, in order for it not to overheat, it's got to record externally. All right, that's the first thing. All right. Second of all, let's say we want to use that camera for, let's say, to do wedding photographies where you need redundancy. All right. Well, that redundancy is not going to happen internally if you're doing video, because it can only record video to one card at a time. It can either record it to the CF fast card, or it can record it to the SD card. It won't record simultaneously to both. Can it be fixed with firmware? Yes, it can, but it doesn't do it right now. And the other one is that if you are, let's say, you're going to use that camera just to do wedding photography, you're not going to use it for video. Well, the SD cards, are reasonably priced, but the CF fast cards are very expensive. And in order to have redundancy, since it doesn't have two SD cards, one is a CFast card and the other one is an SD card, you have to buy an SD card and a CFast card, which is going to be, on the pricier side. So it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make any sense. So it doesn't matter how you look at it. The camera itself is not, in my book, is not a camera that can be used commercially. Not yet, not right now. Maybe the next one, maybe not the R5, but maybe the R7, if there's going to be such a thing as an R7, or who knows how their numbers are go. Now as far as Sony I think has a much better scenario. The problem is that the Sony camera, the A7S3 is, the A7S series has always been a camera that is always been focused on video. It has never been focused on photography. So if you're a wedding photographer, you obviously are not going to shoot photos with a 12 megapixel sensor. That is just not good enough for a wedding. All right, but as a video camera, it is very good. So you're gonna have to buy a video, or in other words, use the A7S3 as a video camera and have a secondary camera to lug around with you just for your photo stills, and that's just how that goes. But anyways, that's just a quick thought about what's going on in the camera world and why I still stick with the Fujifilm. The Fujifilm, it doesn't matter what camera you use. Well, it does matter what camera you use, but if you're using the X series cameras, the X-T2, the X-T3, the X-T4, the X-H1, they have dual cars, and both cars are the same, and both cars do have the capacity to be able to record simultaneously. All right, so that's a good thing, so that's really good. So anyways, let's get back to live streaming. All right, so now we have a scenario. You're a teacher, and now because we have all this stuff going on, with the way the world has changed and the way things are actually evolving with all this COVID-19 stuff that's going on in schools, doing online classes, as well as other, whether it's businesses, or whether it's work from home, or whether it's meetings that a corporate has to do instead of going into a conference room inside, your workplace. Well, the idea, okay, behind all of this is that the streaming, the ability to stream has more than ever become extremely popular. Excuse me. And this popularity is growing and growing and growing. And there are very, very few places that you find on YouTube that will actually explain to you the ins and outs of streaming. Some of them, most of them, of what I have seen will explain to you superficially, and they will recommend because videos like this on YouTube, for those that make money. I don't make money out of any YouTube videos or anything like that, because I don't monetize none of this. But those guys that are putting videos up there are not really explaining everything in detail. They're giving you some of the superficial stuff, like, hey, get this mic because this mic is really good for streaming, and then you see 10 videos, okay, all recommending that same microphone. Or this camera is really good for streaming, and you see 20 videos recommending the camera, But let me help you out, guys, all right? It takes more than just a camera, a microphone, and a computer to be able to live stream, right? The type of cable that you use, for example, to connect your camera into your computer also plays a huge role of whether your stream or your cable actually has the capacity, right, and the bandwidth to be able to carry on the load into your computer so that it can push it out, into the server so that you can get a nice clean stream. Not only that, your capture card also plays a big role. If you're not using a capture card, right, then what about your software? Your streaming software, does it have the capability to do that? If you're not using your streaming software, all right, then how about your microphone? Okay, is it in sync? Then this is just the superficial stuff. All right, then you have the other stuff about your bandwidth. Do you have the bandwidth and the capability in your bandwidth to be able to hold such a stream? So the first thing that that we're going to talk about is I'm going to talk about bandwidth, because that is one of the most misunderstood concepts of being able to stream. All right, so let's talk about bandwidth. All right, if you are in a home, you have a variety of providers, right? And just because you have a 100 gig or a fiber optic line, it doesn't mean, right, that your stream is gonna be clean and clear, all right? Because again, all right, if you live in a overly populated area, let's say New York, okay, you are in New York, where the amount of people that live per square mile, all right, is 20 times, maybe 30 times than somebody living in maybe like Miami. Why? Because the population, the density of the population is much more compact, and everybody lives much more closer. So that means that if you have, let's say, 10,000 people, okay, living in a radius of, let's say, a square mile, okay, and if you have 10,000 people and the bandwidth or what is available, okay, to come in fiber optics, all right, is only being truncated, all right, or coming through a trunk line. We call those trunk lines, and you have too many people to be able to carry that signal in that one trunk line. Then you're gonna have fluctuations. You're gonna have fluctuations that you will see them being affected by the time. The time when you stream is going to affect it, because there's a lot of traffic, for example, there might be a lot of traffic. Let's say maybe from noon to 1 o'clock, because everybody is on their lunch break and everybody is actually surfing the internet. So from 12 to 1 o'clock, all right, you have a huge amount of people on the internet. And because you have a huge amount of people on the internet, those servers, okay, that are actually trying to pick up your signal are oversaturated and overpopulated, and your signal is gonna look like it's choppy and like it's broken. That's a possibility. All right. So another possibility might also be that your system, okay, your actual carrier, all right, is actually downstreaming. There are some companies, right, that will try to save by certain times. They will limit the amount of bandwidth that is available. Right? You might go, for example, here's another one. Okay, you might be at a Starbucks, right, and you might be at a Starbucks in New York City, for example, right, and the actual router, okay, that is inside that Starbucks has been programmed in such a way that it's only allotting anybody that logs on only a certain amount of bandwidth, and that can be done also. While you go down to, for example, another Starbucks, and that particular Starbucks over, let's say, I don't know, Washington, D.C., for example. I'm just throwing some cities out there for you. That particular Starbucks doesn't limit the bandwidth, and so by them not being limited, you're going to have the ability to actually stream a much wider signal and have a much cleaner and not choppy signal because you're not limited by the bandwidth. So that is what I have been experiencing with a lot of these remote locations. So if you're going to go into a Starbucks or something like that, you got to look at all that bandwidth. So how do you check your bandwidth? Well, to check your bandwidth, you have to do, the first thing that you do is you do a speed test. Now, when you do a speed test, okay, a speed test will give you a uplink, okay, bandwidth, and it'll give you a downlink bandwidth. So with that said, okay, you're not concentrating so much in your downlink. You want to concentrate mostly on your uplink. Your uplink is what's going to determine whether you have the bandwidth to be able to stream to where the people on the other side, the viewer on the other side that is actually watching you, it doesn't see a choppy signal. Sometimes my signal, if you can see, sometimes my signal is choppy, and my signal becomes choppy because my towers get saturated. So when the towers get saturated, all right, then the signal fluctuates, and by the signal fluctuating, all right, it gives me that choppy look. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have plenty of bandwidth for what is required of your signal. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to break it down to you. Okay? If your signal is, you want to actually broadcast, or you actually want to stream a 1080 30 frames per second stream, your bandwidth is not going to be, the requirement of your bandwidth is not going to be as big as a 1080 60 frames per second, which now it requires a much more bandwidth. And even furthermore, if you go into a 4K 30 frames per second, it's going to require a much bigger bandwidth. All right, so what do? Well, we need to understand what it is or how it is that you want to stream, or what signal it is that you want to stream. And that signal that you want to stream, your service that you have, whether it is a Wi-Fi signal or whether it is a Ethernet signal, needs to have the capability to carry that signal. One of the things that I like to do, but I cannot always do, is I try to get a signal strong enough that my bandwidth is usually, or in other words, I look for enough bandwidth that is 3 times the amount of bandwidth that I really actually need to be able to stream at the protocol that I'm going to stream. For example, if I want to stream at 1080 30 frames per second, I'm going to try to find a signal that will give me an uplink of no less than 8 megabits or 7 megabits per second. Why do I need 7 megabits per second to stream a 1080 30 frames per second stream? No, I don't. Okay, I can stream a 1080 megabits per second easily with a 3 megabits per second upstream, but I need and I want to have the headroom. I want to have the headroom so that if it becomes saturated, my lines get saturated, my towers get saturated, I still have what it takes to be able to stream my 1080 30 frames per second. So with that in mind, that is really the first place that you need to start to be able to understand what are your capabilities that you have surrounding you, so that when you do stream, it doesn't look like it's choppy, it doesn't look like it's really not a good stream, you know what I'm saying? And it really doesn't have it. I mean, it does have to do with your equipment, but sometimes I see some guys that have, you know, cameras that are worth $3,000 and $4,000, and they have computers that are probably worth $10,000, you know, and they got the most beautiful lighting, and they got, you know, the most beautiful of everything, but something is wrong because, and I'm not saying that it is the signal, it could be a series of things. It could be that the cables that they're using are getting interference. It could be a lot of things, right? But we're going to try to cover everything from the most fundamental and the most basic, so that you can understand as to what it is that you need to do to make a clean stream. So start by knowing what type of signal you have. Is it a cellular signal? Is it a signal that is coming from, let's say, your cable television? You know, whatever the signal may be, the first thing that you want to do before you even start spending money and all that stuff, you can even take your cell phone, and your cell phone you can log on into your actual Wi-Fi spot, or whether it is your cable, you know, just log on somehow with your laptop, computer, cell phone into your network and do a speed test. Start there. The first thing you want to do is you do a speed test, and once you do that speed test, you're going to get some actual readings that will give you an idea of what you can do and what you can't do. Now, when you do these speed tests will vary, and these speed tests will vary as to where it is that you're actually sending the signal to. For example, I'm here in a Winter Park location, and while I'm here in this Winter Park location, I can do a speed test through Spectrum. And when I do my speed test through Spectrum, my signal is my results, okay, that I get back are very, very terrible. Now, you know, they're not as good, you know, because their towers, okay, are actually not good. You know, right? They're just not good. That's really the only way I can put it. So I use AT&T in my particular case because I am on an AT&T cellular. So AT&T for me will give me a true signal, because since I am using the AT&T tower, all right, it's not hopping and jumping all over the place, so it's going to give me the truest signal. This particular signal that I have here with 5G is crazy good, crazy good, you know. But not always do I get a strong enough signal, or am I in an area. Sometimes I'll be, for example, in the Disney area, and oh my God, when I'm in the Disney area, you've got so many tourists, okay, that are on cellular phones, and they're doing the Facebook, and they're doing the social media, and they're using the towers that, you know, the signal that I get, I don't get a true 5G. All right, when I actually measure my bandwidth in my uploads and my downloads, you know, the bandwidth is really minimal, okay, really extremely minimal, you know. So with that said, that's just giving you a couple of scenarios so you have a better idea of what it is that I'm talking about. So tomorrow, okay, I'm going to bring you some actual signals, and I'm going to show you, right, how to and where to look for these signals, and I will cover tomorrow what kind of bandwidth do you need to be able to stream for what resolution. So tomorrow, if you want to be very technical, tomorrow I will cover how much bandwidth is actually needed, okay, for a 1080 30 frames per second, how much bandwidth is needed for a 1080 60 frames per second, how much bandwidth is needed for a 4K 30 frames per second, and how much bandwidth is needed for a 4K 60 frames per second. Now, these are the minimum amounts of bandwidth required to be able to hold the stream. But what I do, okay, and what rule of thumb is, if I need 3 megabits per second, right, for my upload speeds for bandwidth, I will not look for 3 megabits per second. I will usually multiply it by 2.5. So I will start looking for something like a possibly, you know, like something like an 8 megabit, you know, bits per second upload speed. That is my rule of thumb, all right, so that you guys can better understand. So anyways, guys, you know, join me tomorrow when we cover all of this. This whole week I've got this whole show for you guys that I'm going to be covering from different places, and I'm going to be covering starting with the bandwidth, starting with that, and then I'm going to cover also how do you know that your cable that you've got from your camera all the way to your computer is actually good to carry a 4K signal. And is it actually good to carry a 4K signal? Because not every cable has the capacity to carry a 4K signal. And we're going to cover all of that, you know, this week. So in the meantime, you know, I invite you all to come and join us, you know, and by subscribing, yes, please subscribe right there. And we do want to invite every single one of you, and if you have friends, you know, please, you know, tell them about us. We're just trying to help you. Again, I want to clarify this. I don't make any money off of this. I'm not tied to any affiliates. I don't make any money off of YouTube. I don't sell anything. I don't sell t-shirts. I don't have treat me to a coffee type thing or none of that, you know. I don't do none of that, okay? I would love your money, but I don't need it, okay? I just do this to try to help you specifically for this time of age where the streaming, the live streaming has become so much more popular and so much more needed. In the meantime, you know, I want to thank you. My name is Charles Richard, and you can see me here. I'm gonna try, okay, again, I'm gonna try to live stream at least once a day for just this week, all right, just to be able to cover in depth this live streaming situation, so that if you are a teacher or if you are doing any kind of meetings that you're going to be using Zoom, Skype, or whatever it is, and you're going to have all these sort of meetings or classes, via live streaming, you are able to better understand the concept of live streaming. This is Charles Richards saying thank you so much for joining me, and you all have a wonderful and a beautiful day, and I will see you possibly, well, not possibly, definitely tomorrow.